Hey viewers, welcome back to Wes's Corner. Today we're going to step away from mental health discussions related to games and TV shows and instead discuss a particular mental health diagnosis on its own, and that is going to be bipolar disorder. I myself have bipolar disorder. I was diagnosed a little over 2 years ago, not long after my 30th birthday. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what it's like and what my personal experience has been like dealing with it. So, here we go. A little bit of background first. Bipolar disorder is a disorder that causes extreme mood swings, ranging from a high of mania or hypomania to a low of depression. You may also know it as manic depression, but we don't really call it that anymore. There is no cure, but it can be well managed with medication and or therapy. As you may have been clued into, there is more than one type of bipolar disorder. Types 1 and 2 are the main ones and the ones that we see most commonly. But I'm going to be more focused on type 2 as it's the kind that I have and have the most experience dealing with on a personal level. So we'll talk about how I personally have come to terms with and dealt with this diagnosis. One of the most important things to remember, and a common myth that people don't often realize, is that the mood changes are sudden. People do think that the mood changes are sudden. They are not sudden. That doesn't mean that they can't be, but it's not the norm. The moods can last for weeks, months, days, sometimes. Now there is a phenomenon known as rapid cycling. That occurs when a person experiences 4 or more mood changes related to bipolar disorder in 1 year. It's also possible to experience both ups and downs simultaneously, known as mixed cycling, so you can have the mania or hypomania and depression. That's just hell. Honestly, that just sucks. You don't know how to feel there. Type 2 is more known for not causing periods of full-on mania, just the hypomania. While they are both similar, hypomania can at times be less severe. And just because you're in that mood does not mean that you're happy. While you can feel euphoric, you're also more likely to feel more irritable, overconfident, more social, more impulsive, and let's be honest, it's going to make you horny. I mean, I'm not going to beat around the bush with that one. It does cause your sex drive to go up during these times, or at least it can. Some of this might sound pretty good on paper, but it doesn't always translate well to real life. There's a lot of impulsivity that can happen, which can end up being dangerous. Spending too much money, damage to your relationships, destructive driving, excessive drug and alcohol use, and risky sexual behavior. I mean, you don't want those diseases. You don't want to be broke. You don't want to be, you don't want to have substance use disorder. All those things are pretty shitty. Hypomania can last for weeks to months at a time, and you don't always notice that you're hypomanic. Others might, but you might not. I'm going to be real with you. I have spent recklessly. I have spent too much money on things that I did not need. I have found myself overdrawn at the bank before because I've made dumb financial decisions. We're not going to get into details with those, but there are some that I am still dealing with, and probably a bit of that can be traced back to the impulsive desires of a hypomanic bipolar period. I've also accomplished a lot, though. I've done some pretty good things. I've written a story, over 200 pages, I might add. I've drawn some really good artwork. I tend to have more motivation when I'm hypomanic. I tend to be able to concentrate better, focus better on things, and I have a stronger drive to get things done. Cooking, art, writing, reading, all stuff I do better during my hypomania. Now, hypomania can occur on its own or can also be caused by life events or activities referred to as triggers. So it is pretty important to pay attention to the things happening in your life and how they can affect your mood, both short term and long term. Keep an eye on the day to day events as well as major ones so that you can identify possible changes to your mood and behavior. Now that we've talked about the ups, let's talk about the downs or the depressive episodes. Honestly, this is my least favorite part. It's depression. Nobody likes to be depressed. Nobody likes that. It sucks. I mean, you're in a depressive episode. That does not mean that you're not laughing, that you're not smiling, that you don't find some enjoyment in things, but it's more difficult. It can range anything from you don't want to eat, you don't have the energy to take a shower, put shoes on without socks just because you can't muster up that little bit of extra effort to put the socks on. It could be not brushing your teeth or your hair, just taking care of your personal hygiene and well-being. Sometimes it's hard to do that kind of thing when you're depressed. It's really fucking hard. You might seem fine on the outside, but even the smallest task can take a mountain of mental fortitude to accomplish. Anxiety, feelings of hopelessness, wondering what's going to go wrong next, and if you just stay in bed all day, you can avoid anything bad happening. All that's common with the depression part of it. This is possible to overcome. You may not eliminate it altogether, but you can make it easier to manage. Remember, you're stronger than your disorder, even if you don't feel like you are. Being in tune to your own mind is integral when experiencing the symptoms and mood changes that bipolar disorder is known for. It's not always easy to do, but it is definitely possible. I've lived with it long enough that I can identify what type of cycle I'm in. If you can't, that's okay. It's common for people more recently diagnosed to not really know, people that aren't really familiar with it to not know what kind of cycle they're in. But learn to pay attention to what your moods are and how you're feeling, and you'll get better at it over time. It's just something that takes work like anything else. I feel like one of the biggest struggles dealing with bipolar disorder, and this is pretty common, I'm sure, finding a balance of your moods. Not too hypomanic, not too manic, not too depressed. You want that bit of balance. There are ways that you can accomplish this. Mood stabilizers are the primary form of treatment, medication specifically. They can be expensive. They don't always work. It depends on the person. You have to go through some trial and error, and that could be a pain in the ass, if I'm being honest with you. But eventually, you'll find something that does work for you. And sometimes, even if you do find one that works, it can lose its efficacy over time. You might need to adjust the dosage. You might need to try different medication again. There's different ways of dealing with it. But having bipolar disorder does not have to be a death sentence, not by any means. You can still live a pretty normal life with the proper combination of medication and therapy. Therapy is another form of treatment, counseling, that people with bipolar disorder can utilize. You can't tell somebody's bipolar just by looking at them, not by any stretch. And that's true with a lot of mental health disorders. Most mental health disorders are considered invisible just because we can't see them on the surface. We shouldn't act as though they are. There's nothing wrong with having it. There might feel like there's a stigma, and maybe there is in some cases. There shouldn't be. You're not a bad person if you suffer from bipolar disorder or any other mood disorder or mental health disorder. It's caused by chemical imbalances in the brain. You didn't choose your brain. You don't get to control what your brain gives you when you're born or as you go through puberty and your brain matures and all that. Yeah, I get that some people can feel responsible, but you don't need to. It can make you feel helpless and like less of a person. But you're not less of a person. You're not helpless. There's nothing wrong with you for having bipolar disorder. I believe that everybody's brains have some degree of chemical imbalance to them. I'm a strong proponent of getting diagnosed and treated. Therapy can be a good thing if you can find a good therapist, that is. There's nothing wrong with having the disorder, there's nothing wrong with seeking help. If it makes you feel the best that you can be, then I'm all for it. If you watch this video and you feel like you need guidance, don't be afraid to reach out. You can do so in the comments section or you can do so anonymously. Remember, Wes's Corner can be found on all the major platforms. I will leave links in the description. That is all for today's video. Join me next time where I discuss what it's been like to be on the spectrum. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Feel free to discuss today's video. Follow the channel discussion for more updates with the channel itself and the brand overall. Once again, thank you for visiting Wes's Corner. See you next time. Goodbye.